Let's go.
You're listening to Hypothetically with Will Noonan.
Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, whatever time it is where you are. Thank you for listening to Hypothetically with Will Noonan. That is me coming at ya from my car, the Honda Accord sedan. I'm driving back from Worcester right now. Just left a gig, comedy extravaganza at the PNI Club in Worcester, working with James Creelman, Jonathan Tilson, Josh Ramirez, and Corey Manning. Fucking a lot of guys on the show. Corey is still on stage right now, but I'm heading back because it's Easter Sunday tomorrow, and it's time to worship Jesus. I don't know why I'm doing so much radio voice kind of talking right now. I'm a little stoned. I just smoked weed. This is like a more of a throwback classic episode of Hypothetically where I am high as shit while I record the podcast, and because that's how I used to do it every single fucking time. But just had a great time at this show. It was one of those kind of rowdy, crazy bar, drunken. It wasn't a bar, it was a big place, but they were all shit-faced like it was a bar. And definitely had a lot of fun. So. Tomorrow is fucking Easter. Today is Holy Saturday. Yesterday was Good Friday. And I don't know what all those things really mean. I know Easter is the day Jesus rose from the dead. But I don't know. And I think Good Friday is when he died, which doesn't make a ton of sense name-wise, but I don't know what the other stuff is. I was raised Catholic, went to Catholic school. Got nothing against anything, anyone who's Catholic, and I still like a lot of stuff about it, but there's a lot of, stuff in the Catholic religion where I'm like, there's no way the same Jesus that you guys talk about and all these stories gives a fuck if I eat meat on Friday. It seems very specific and weird and not something like a cool, laid-back dude like Jesus Christ would say. So I remember even as a kid in Catholic school, when they'd get to this kind of stuff, I'd sort of tune out around. I mean, Christmas, you're like, yeah, birth, that's something to celebrate. But this whole died and came back 3 days later thing, definitely the fishiest part of the old Christ story. It's more believable that he was a great philosopher and spread a lot of great ideas and was a spiritual man and all that stuff. But the whole dying, coming back from the dead thing, I always thought was kind of odd growing up. But I'm not an atheist, so I'm not fucking saying nothing ever happened. But when you think about it, what are the odds that with over thousands of years, people didn't fucking change the story to accommodate whatever they fucking want, especially jerking off and sex stuff. At some point, people got really uptight about sex and sexuality, and they didn't want it. They didn't want it even happening at all. And then all of a sudden, they added a bunch of shit to religions, making it all fucking restrictive and making people all sad about themselves. So couldn't think of a more boring and retarded and fucking stupid topic to start the podcast off with. But that is the time of the year we're in right now. But more importantly, it's becoming fucking springtime, and I'm happy about that. But I don't know. I guess I am going to complain a little bit on this podcast. Last week's episode was a fucking big hit. Thank you guys so much for downloading it and listening to it. I was really shocked because, I had taken a while off, a whole month off, and I was shocked that a lot of you guys were still there as subscribers, and I appreciated everyone. It really did great numbers, and I think it was the title was kind of clickbaity, and I had some, raw stuff to dish on that episode, but man, holy shit, did it fuck up. Did it... it just... Every chick I've dated for the past, like, 2 or 3 months thought I was talking about them in that fucking podcast. And I wasn't. Some of them I was talking about, some of them I wasn't. Some of them I was, like, conflating two people or amalgamizing two people together. I was just fucking talking out of my fucking ass. You know, I was trying to explain to one of the young women that it's not really stand-up, it's not really, like, hanging out with me, it's sort of this in-between thing. And sometimes I get a little honest on there, but to the average listener, you have no idea who I would ever be talking about. But to these chicks, a lot of them think people could figure it out somehow, or at least around here. It's a whole fucking thing, and I don't blame them. That's not like... It's happened before. It's happened to me before. I talk about my life on this podcast, you know? That's what this podcast is. I come on here, I talk about things, but I also relate it to my life while I'm doing it, right? And it's caused problems many times, because I often have fucking women problems, and I come on here to bitch about it to you, my friends and fans and listeners, new enthusiasts. And it's content, and it's my life, and... It's where the comedy comes from and all that shit. But, man, it almost always backfires. So I gotta fucking figure out a way to, I guess, either not do it or date someone who doesn't mind hearing about it. But that's the thing. No one minds when it's, like, complimentary stuff. But when you start to talk about the nitty-gritty or something. But I didn't even think I said anything that bad. But, whatever. I just got a lot of phone calls and a lot of texts. And clickbait works. That title was clickbaity, and I definitely got clicks from a few recent exes and all that. So I guess there's no real apologies in order, but I mean, I did apologize to one of them a lot, and I felt really bad. I really did. Like, I guess in my head, I just don't see how this affects anybody but me, and even then, I don't know, like, who the fuck even cares about me, is the point. But I get it. No one likes to hear things about themselves secondhand, and I don't know. But it was like I was complaining about this chick breaking my balls on a couple dates, and she found out about it, and I felt bad that she felt bad, and then it's like a cycle of feeling bad. But at the same time, unfortunately, it's how it goes with this fucking hypothetically bullshit. So that was the backlash part of last week's episode. But the other part of it was a lot of people really enjoyed it. A lot of people were happy the podcast was back. And like I said, even with that chick, it's all cool. We worked it out. We talked it out. And but yeah, I sort of talk off the top of my dome on this podcast, and anything, you know, can happen, and it's kind of a moment in time. There's been definite times in the past where I've come on here after being super upset or in a fight with a chick, and then I use this as an outlet to kind of bitch about chicks or women in general, and then they get mad about that. And that has happened a couple times, and but it's never like I never name any names. Not that anyone would know any of these people anyway. But I guess that's not the point. I don't know. Sometimes I have a hard time because I'm kind of an open book, and I'm sort of, I would even say almost an exhibitionist in some respects. I realized that about myself recently, because I was watching a documentary about this guy who fasted for 55 days. He was trying to lose weight in this, like, brutal fucking extreme way. He was a fat fucker, and he decided he's gonna just not eat anything or drink anything but water for 55 days. And he lost like 40 pounds and stuff. And he said a lot of stuff in it that was interesting. It's a very interesting documentary, and I don't remember the title. I'm sorry. It's on YouTube, but I think if you put in fast 55 days, it'll come up, or at least on Google. But he said something about he didn't like to go running, because he was worried about people looking at him, or he had a lot of stuff about he's very concerned with people looking at him and people whatever. And I was like, oh, that's funny, because I've never been concerned about that, really, other than, there's been a couple times in my life where I've been having a panic attack or I've been high as fuck and I've been like, I don't want everyone looking at me. But I've never really been uncomfortable with people looking at me. And actually, I don't really like it in restaurants, like in certain ways, but fuck that. I'm pretty cool with it. And like definitely with running and doing stuff, hiking, whatever, I guess one little voice in my brain is like, they're gonna make fun of you, or they'll laugh. But I've always been able to just be like, well, fuck all that. I want to do this. I mean, I've never been ashamed of things that I'm interested in, really. It's like I never got that shit. Not to brag, not like I'm fucking better. I've had plenty of issues in my life, but that was just never one of them. And I kind of realized that about myself. I'm like, you know what? I don't mind that people think I run in ridiculous clothing. I don't give a fuck. I do stand-up comedy. I've done a lot of silly things on video and in commercials and in front of live audiences, and I don't give a fuck. So I guess I'm kind of desensitized or dead to feeling when it comes to sharing things about myself or my life or even my personal life, I've gotten pretty laid back about it, and I can forget sometimes that not everyone has that same sort of compass of when it comes to that. I've seen family members kind of wince at things that are discussed. I don't think my mom really, really loves being discussed in my act. And I've also had girlfriends and, people, it's like everyone wants to be in your act until they're in your act, and then they don't like the thing that you noticed about them or whatever. So it happens, but I always thought it's kind of an honor. It's like having a song written about you, And no one knows. I'm not sitting up there most of the time bitching about specific people. But anyway, so sometimes I think I can, without asking people, bring them into my life in that way and be like, you're now part of this, you're part of the story, you're part of these podcasts, you're part of these jokes. And I guess that's not really fair to them. But that's, I don't know, that kind of leads me into my next topic, which is no one really fucking gives a fuck anymore about other people. Like, I guess I'm doing it with this because I'm like, well, I'm like this. I'm open and I do a podcast, so you're on a date with me, and now you are too. But I was thinking sort of about, I went to Dunkin Donuts. I know so many of my stories start at Dunkin Donuts and end at Dunkin Donuts and middle at Dunkin Donuts. But I actually don't go as much as I used to. Not even close. But I was in one for this story, and there's this guy working there, and he's like, I don't know what the fuck's up with me today. Oh my god, I'm fucking all over the place today. And he's complaining to everyone who's working there about how like out of it he is and how like frazzled he is. And it was kind of making me laugh because it was the kind of thing like a boss would say to an employee in some hipster office. Like, he was just like killing time walking around, and he was supposed to be making my shit. And he kept taking out his phone and checking Facebook and checking social media stuff, and then he realized that he had completely forgotten my food. Figured that out. Once he realized that, he tried to find me in the restaurant and tell me. And it was so funny how he said it. It was like, bro, I'm sorry, man. Dude, I'm having a fucking day today, buddy. My fucking girl's fighting with me on Instagram, dude. You know how it is. We'll get you a sandwich in a couple minutes. And I'll tell you what, next time you're here, I'll give you a free fucking donut. And I'm like, I'm standing there like, yeah, thanks, bud. A, I don't fucking care about any of your fucking bullshit. And B, I don't want your fucking donut. I just want this right now. And C, the point of all this is no one like wants to fucking do their job anymore or admit that they're not important anymore. I was talking to another comedian about this. I can't remember who it was, but we were at a show and this comedian's killing, and then he does this joke about dogs, and the crowd didn't like it, and then they fucking they turned on this guy because it was about them now. And I just feel like everyone now is a celebrity in their own little world, in their own mind. Everyone's a celebrity in their own mind because we now have an outlet which is Facebook and Twitter and Instagram, where you actually can make a statement or put something out, and your friends, real and fake, can vote on whether it's funny or not by liking it, right, or retweeting it. So it's developed a whole new type of person. There's people now who are like, they think of themselves almost as comedians because they're funny on Facebook and their Facebook statuses are funny. You know, it's a thing people say about people. Oh, you should see her Facebook. It's hilarious. So it's now created this little side industry of everyone is like got their regular life with their job and their dog and their fucking lunch and dinner and shitting and eating and going on dates. They have their real life, and then they have their online life, which is kind of a persona that you're curating at all times, and you want people to know that you're, you know, at this place and that place, but you're not taking pictures of the bad moments, of course. You're only taking pictures of the best moments, and even then often manufactured kind of moments. And that didn't exist even 10 years ago, and now we have this whole thing where people now think like celebrities and politicians, where they say, all right, they run things through their head. How does this reflect on me? How does this reflect on my brand, which is me? And it's really fucking insane. It could be a serious problem, actually, I always think, in the future of the country, because what's going to happen if you don't have anyone who cares about menial work? Like, everyone now feels that they're above the job at Dunkin Donuts. Everyone feels that they're above basically a lot of jobs out there. A lot of Americans think they're above it. They think they're fucking what Facebook and Twitter and Instagram let us know was what we always suspected, was that people are fucking idiots and they think really highly of themselves. And then once everyone had a platform to kind of talk and put opinions out and converse in this way, you really started to see the education levels of some people, or even just the like crazy opinions of some people. All of a sudden you're like, wow, that guy's a fucking flat earther, or they're into Trump, or stuff you never, ever, ever would have known about a person in your town or whatever, you're now well aware of. And it's really fucking weird. That used to only be kind of a famous person's problem, was what your beliefs were on things, or being judged for your beliefs. And now it's non-famous people, non-artists. Friendships are ending over Facebook arguments and over politics and all this shit. And what it's created is like a totally lame, fake second world. Like, you would never be proud of yourself if you had, like, you remember that game like The Sims or Second Life? Like, no one would be walking around proud to have like a really big Second Life account. Like, yeah, I'm on there all fucking day, and I'm like a level 84 mage, and I've got 86 costumes, and sometimes other players will pay me for lessons, and like, you wouldn't brag about that shit. But social media is just as fucking lame. And it's starting to come around. I was feeling a little bit vindicated in this past week with Facebook having their fucking, people are like all of a sudden realizing that Facebook is terrible and it's been the cause of a lot of problems in this country, and they steal all your information and sell it to advertisers. And it's like, I've been on Facebook for a long time, and I've been bitching about it on this podcast for a long time. I will not say I told you so, but I will say I was hoping, and I've said this, I've been hoping this wave of like anti-social media, anti-Facebook stuff kind of comes around, because a lot of the fucking problems we have right now with people being separated by race and separated by political beliefs, and a lot of it's manufactured on there, man, and it's just bad news. I was watching another documentary on YouTube about these people who chose to spend 5 days in solitary confinement just to see what it would be like and how, and to sort of show how hard that is. And a lot of them were like, yeah, I can't wait to be away from my phone and stuff like that. That was the thing they were kind of that was one of the things they were kind of discussing and all that shit. And it was interesting to me to watch it because they all had different kind of reactions, but and a lot of them were happy to not have their phone, but when they got out, they all went right back to it. And it was interesting to see, like, a couple of them in their madness of sort of being alone were like, it's all bullshit, like, it's all crap, social media is crap, like, it's all about the real time you spend with people and the quality of that time. And so one guy had like a real revelation, but it was like 5 to 10 minutes of being with his phone. It was all like washing away. It was really, oh shit, coming up on a big traffic jam here. It was really fucking interesting. Sorry, I got distracted. I don't want. Ooh, looks like there's some accidents happening. No. Oh man, did I almost see a fucking guy in Southie? I almost saw him get hit by a car. It was so close. Made my stomach do a flip. I wish I knew the scientific reasons behind things like your stomach flipping and your heart dropping. That stuff is so interesting to me. I think, like, the feeling of when you pass when you're speeding and you go past a speed trap and you see the cop there and your heart drops. It's that weird it's that weird feeling, you know. And what is that? Are there any doctors who listen? I wonder if it's like, I mean, I really don't know. I wonder if it's connected to emotion or if that's like an adrenaline response. I often wonder about that. Sometimes before I go, I don't really get nervous before doing stand-up anymore, in a bad way. But sometimes I get these like, my heart will still pound every now and then, especially if I've had a little too much coffee. My heart will be pounding, and I'll just feel like this weird thing in my stomach that's not really like nausea, but it's like butterflies, and I'm always like, what is that? It's like my body is in some way preparing itself for this thing I'm about to do. I'd be super interested in knowing what causes that shit. I bet it's some kind of mix of like adrenaline and psychosomatic bullshit. I've been thinking a lot about all of this stuff lately. I've been kind of on that kick. You know, if you've been following me on social media, which I've been fucking denouncing this entire time, but if you've been following me, I've been running for a few years. I've been running and meditating, but in the past 2 to 3 weeks now, I've incorporated food into my whole fucking thing. So that's kind of like the next phase of all this. I'm trying to eat healthy foods, make my own foods, and in typical fashion of the way I like to do shit, been going in hard, full force, 3 meals a day, cooked at home, all healthy shit. I've been eating like oatmeal in the morning with beet powder, red beet fucking powder in the oatmeal, and a little maple syrup for flavor. And I've been having avocados and eggs, all kinds of fucking healthy shit. All right, I'm also onto protein powder now, a few vitamins. I'm trying to get fucking health, like super healthy. I just want to see what it feels like. Because after I quit smoking, it was such a drastic change as far as feeling good. Like I feel so much better since I quit smoking. I'm like, how much better can we feel? I want to see how far I can push this shit. And by the way, shout out to Bert Kreischer, who just finished the LA Marathon. Fucking thanks to him, really. His sober October was the reason I quit smoking. The support of like him and his fans, and you guys too. That was you got me through that first fucking tough month. And now it's almost 6 months later. I'm very, very happy to be tomorrow. It'll be 6 months tomorrow without cigarettes, and not even one fucking puff, not even a drag off somebody else's. I completely have stopped smoking cigarettes, still smoking weed. Just smoked a bunch before doing this podcast. That's probably why I was talking about Jesus so much at the beginning, because I was high, thinking about the Lord. But yeah, it's been interesting. Not a ton to report about the fucking about the food. Like, I didn't have any like horrible diarrhea or I thought that's what I thought was gonna happen. But if anything, I just feel much better. Feel like I have a lot more energy and I feel good. Eating pretty clean. But yeah, I went out and had one night I was at a friend's and I had some pizza, and that's the only shitty thing. Like, when you're eating really good stuff all the time, you throw anything in there that's not good, you really can feel it. Felt the pizza real bad, and then I had a burger last night, and went on a little date ski, had a little burger, and actually that wasn't so bad, but I could tell it's like you're eating healthy shit, all of a sudden you put something unhealthy in, and there you go, you feel like shit. I heard a good one the other day. A guy was like, if you eat fat and greasy food, you'll be a fat and greasy dude. And I was like, that's the kind of science I like. Science that rhymes. Weed cough coming at ya. So here's a little story from my personal life. This is the kind of thing that slowly drives me insane, which I think my roommate does not even think about for more than 30 seconds a day, but is driving me slowly insane. Patty, my best friend Patty, who I love very much, and I live with now, and have been living with, and it has its ups, and it has its downs, but lately, we've had a situation, and I think it's worth telling the listener about, and finding out what your opinion is about this, and, you can email me at willnoonancomedy@gmail.com or at my website, willnoonan.com, or just answer on Twitter, any of those places. But here is the conundrum. So, like I said, been eating real healthy. I bought a bunch of things. I bought a toaster, a blender, a red copper pan from as seen on TV, and obviously a bunch of food. And, Patty does what Patty wants to do, and if Patty's hungry, he might just eat whatever he wants, knowing Patty. So I kind of lightly was sort of like, hey, man, this is, I'm on this health thing, and I'm kind of trying to keep track of this stuff. So I'll just put my stuff over here in this kind of corner, and appreciate it if you just kind of leave it. And he's like, oh, yeah, of course, And I was like, on the toaster, all that shit, use all that shit if you want, but just trying to. And he's like, yeah, of course. So that's all good, and a couple days of me eating my shit and not having any trouble. And then one day I'm enjoying my new meals that I'm eating, and I tell him, I go, hey, I go, man, this beet powder stuff, I really like it. I go, I can really feel it on my lungs and when I'm running, and I think of all these supplements, like the beet powder is really good. And he's like, oh, yeah, whatever. And then I go, yeah, I think, and this is where I really made my biggest mistake. I go, yeah, I even think it's helping me, like, smoke weed a little bit better. Like, I feel like weed's not as harsh or anything. And he's like, now I see him go, like, oh, yeah, really? That's interesting, right? So I'm like, I mean, I don't know. I'm just, like, kind of talking out of my ass, right? So then the next day, Pat's like, hey, man, I tried some of your beet powder. What he actually said was, I stole some of your beet powder. And I was like, oh, okay. I was like, what'd you think? Right? And whatever. And then, so then in the next couple days, I start seeing Pat's dirty dishes in the sink, and I'm noticing a lot of fucking beet powder. And I'm kind of like, I just dropped like $200 on all this stuff, and had saved my money, put it aside for this food and foodstuffs, and I'd researched the things I wanted, and I was getting them because I'm running like 5 to 6 miles a day, and I was like, I need to start eating the right nutrition. It was this whole fucking thing, even down to the brand. It was like weeks in the making buying all this stuff, and it was expensive. So I was kind of like, so I say to Pat, I'm like, hey man, is this gonna be like an everyday thing with this? Because I'm kind of like, I need this stuff, and I'm kind of trying to keep track of it, and you know, like, you don't really need it. But to be honest, I wish I was that concise, but I think I was probably a little bit more. I'd probably beat around the bush a little bit more than that. Like I was like, hey, I definitely said, is this gonna be an everyday thing? In the sense of like, I don't like that. And I was like, I finally was like, yeah, well, you know, this is like really expensive, so I was like, I'd rather you didn't. And that, as he was saying that, he was eating like a big fucking bowl of it, right? So I went somewhere or whatever, and then Pat comes back and he's like, he gives me $10, and he's like, hey man, I just want to, I was like, I'll give you some money or something. I was like, okay. So I accepted it for a second. I accepted it, and then I was like, I wish I didn't accept this, because I just want him to stop fucking eating it. He doesn't need this shit. He didn't even know it existed a week and a half ago, and now he's like taking it all the time. And you know, I'm like, I'm the youngest of 3, and I can share, but when it comes to like powdery things and certain things, like I don't like other people's fingers on my stuff. I don't know. But it was just sort of interesting to me how he seemed to have this feeling of like, I'm entitled to this beet powder, bro, so take this money or don't. And then, but then what was interesting was he was complaining later in that day about not having any money. So I said, hey man, I don't want this money anyway. I gave him the $10 back. I said, don't worry about that. Like, I was like, just, you know, buy your own beet powder when you get the dough. And I thought that was that. I figured that was the end of it. And I hate to admit how much mental energy I've wasted on this problem this week. I have way bigger fish to fry in my life. And this thing just keeps popping up in my brain for some reason. It keeps like appearing in my mind like a splinter or a paper cut or something. It's just irritating me. And it's not about the beet powder, and it's not about the money that the beet powder costs, and it's not even about sharing. What's weird about it to me is the thing kind of I just said earlier is about like, he didn't even know this stuff existed 2 weeks ago, and now he's willing to steal it. And also like, he knows it's pissing me off. He can tell it's like really like rattling me and irritating me, and yet he's still doing it. So the latest development was today. As I used the beet powder and put it in my own shit, I just took it in my bedroom and put it in a safe place, because I cannot trust it to just be in the kitchen anymore. Because Rumi will get into my beet powder. So, am I overreacting? Do I give too much of a shit about this? I think it was like $26 for this fucking bag of dust, of red dust. That's supposed to make me healthier. But let me tell you, if Pat was running every day or maybe working out or something, I might feel a little bit better about it. But part of me feels like it's like, dude, why don't we just flush half this fucking thing down the toilet? Because it's not made to make you smoke weed a little bit better. It's like a fucking health supplement. And I think that's the part that's driving me the most crazy. Or the fact that he's just doing it repeatedly while he knows that it bothers me. And this thing literally did not exist to him at all until 2 weeks ago. So that's a little window into my life. And absolutely another thing that could come back and bite me in the ass. I don't know. I doubt. I'm sure by the time this podcast is uploaded, me and Pat will probably have had 3 more fights about beet powder. But I think I'm in the right on this one. But I would like to know if I'm overreacting, or definitely I've been stressing about this too much, because it's not really obviously a major problem, but it's one of those irritations. Because I had some worries. Like I said, I love Pat. He's my best friend. But he's an interesting, unique kind of guy. He's a lot like Kramer from Seinfeld if he were a real person. Like, and I'm not I mean, you got to see him. He's a funny comedian. You know, he's funny. But he's not the easiest guy to live with, I'll tell you. And especially when you're buddies and stuff. Sometimes I'm more in the mood for it than others, but he doesn't give a shit. But all that aside, like, whatever. People are people. But he's an interesting fucking guy. And but I got to say, this has been driving me a little bit nuts. Because I did have some feelings. I was like, man, you know, there's this whole part of our kitchen that no one was ever using. It was completely empty and untouched the whole time I lived in the apartment. And I just had a feeling in my head. I was like, I have a feeling if I start using this and putting stuff here and buying stuff for myself, there's going to be problems. I think he's only had 1 or 2 roommates ever in his life besides me. And I was a little bit worried that there were going to be problems, and it was almost fucking immediately there were. So and then I got a little bit like sad sacky, feeling sorry for myself, like, you can't even have anything. You can't have anything nice. You can't do anything nice without stress. And then I was like, shut up, you little bitch. Like, Patty's gonna be Patty. And he's actually doing great. He's been really depressed for a long time, but now he's doing good. He's met a great chick, and he's been going out and having fun, and I'm happy he's feeling himself. But I wish the motherfucker would buy his own fucking shit. His own beet powder. And because I don't know, I mean, we don't share anything else, really. Like, we don't share even soap, you know? Like, it's just not that kind of... We're grown men, 2 roommates. I just think it's kind of odd. You can tell, right? You can tell listening that I'm like, I can't stop thinking about this. I can't stop being angry about it. I really need feedback on this one. Oh yeah. Anyway, I went and saw Black Panther. Really enjoyed it. I'm a huge Marvel fan. I love Marvel cinema and comics and all that shit. So I was pretty happy whenever any of those movies come out, I'm happy. I'm pretty excited to go see them. But you know, this one had an added sort of thing of being culturally relevant and in the cultural lexicon. Like, I was surprised that all of a sudden, you know, these Marvel movies come out and I'm into the Avengers and all that shit, and I have been. So when stuff comes out, I do follow a lot of Marvel-type people on Twitter. So when Thor comes out and Spider-Man comes out, I do see a lot of stuff about it on Twitter. But now it was like, with Black Panther, it was like everyone on Twitter was talking about it. Not just the comic book people, the wrestling people, the comedy people. Everyone was talking about Black Panther. So I was like, oh, that's interesting. It's kind of like my little nerdy world is, I mean, it was already really popular, but now it's like even getting into this. So I was kind of psyched about that. I was like, Black Panther, selling a lot of fucking tickets. Always happy to see, you know. Personally, I mean, I've known who the Black Panther was and known who Wakanda, what Wakanda was for a really fucking long time, because I've been reading these comic books since I was a kid. I will admit, it's pretty funny. I was thinking about this after I saw the movie. I didn't know the Black Panther was black underneath the costume. I'm talking probably until I'd been reading comics for years, because I never read Black Panther, the comic book. I used to read Fantastic Four, Spider-Man, the Avengers, and Black Panther would kind of be a guest star or a team-up in those comics and never take the suit off. So I just, you know, I'm a little white kid in Boston reading comic books full of white people. And then I remember one day around 12, 13, I'm reading a comic and he takes the mask. It was like a story that involved Wakanda. And I was like, holy shit, duh. Makes a fucking perfect sense. He's the Black Panther. I fucking right in front of me all along. And then you learn about Wakanda, which is like super cool because it's like in Africa, and everyone thinks it's like this poor shithole country, but it's actually like a cool futuristic place because they have vibranium, which is what Captain America's shield is made out of, and all the nerdy stuff, right? So I think what's interesting is that world and that cool character and all that shit's always been there, but now because of this movie, it's all new. It's new to people, which I think is I mean, seeing people walking around wearing Wakanda t-shirts and stuff is just fucking cool as fuck to me. I didn't think the movie, though. It was funny to me how I think people wanted to put a lot onto that movie that wasn't really there. It was a great movie. It was a great story. And I think what they did well, there were a couple racial elements to this story, but for the most part, it's just a great story about great characters where they happen to be black. And actually, to me, that is what, like, that's equality. Equality is your kid dresses up as Spider-Man or Black Panther and doesn't think about whether it's white or black. Like, it's not about that. That's equality to me. And I like that about Black Panther. I felt like I was like, this is a great fucking movie. White or black, it's just a good movie. And yeah, it is a, there's a part of the movie I felt a little bit shoehorned, a little not, where it was like, there's black people all over the world and they don't have anything, and we have all this in Wakanda, and which is a good point. Unfortunately, there is no real Wakanda. But there's there's a bad guy in it. Michael B. Jordan plays him. He's shredded. He must have roided to death. And it's interesting. A lot of people like this character because he's kind of the gangsta badass fucking character, antithesis of old African Black Panther. I don't know if this, maybe someone could answer this for me. I've been meaning to talk to some of my black friends about it, but I kind of got the feeling it was maybe a slight comment on the two sides of the American black male, like either the two sides of an American black male personality, or the two directions an American black male is pulled in his life. It was like the hood rap video idea of what a strong black man is, and the more traditional, just old-fashioned more idea of what a strong black man, or any man really, is in the Black Panther. And I kind of was like, maybe that's what it's a story about, because that's kind of interesting. That's just a theory, but I thought there were a lot of like kind of layers happening in that movie. But a lot of stuff I was seeing online, I felt like was people seeing what they wanted to see, and maybe not seeing that they just made a really good movie, and it's not about one race being better than the others. It's like, you can't be like, hey man, like, I'm happy Black Panther did a lot for black people and fuck white people. It's like, why can't you just enjoy one thing without having to put down a whole race of people? And that's fucking goes for everybody. Like, sometimes it's the same thing when a white basketball player is any good. Everyone loves him twice as much because he's white. It's like, come on, that's kind of fucked up. It's anyone can do anything. That's what equality is, man. You got to keep that in mind. At all times, in my opinion. This is health, food, meditation, running, Will Noonan, right here. That's my phone right now going off because someone on the Nike app gave me a cheer. But, yeah. I have been running so much, man. I love it. I know it's one of those things that people kind of don't find interesting until you, do it yourself. It's hard to explain what's fun about it to people. It's hard to explain. Like, I never really got it until I started doing it. But man, very, very into it. Ran my first race. I got a bunch more coming up. Psyched about it, man. It is interesting though. There's like do's and don'ts out there. Living in the city. I used to run in the suburbs more, and it would be like, very friendly. You saw another runner, you say hello, you nod. And in the city, there's more runners, especially Boston. Boston's a running city. There's shitloads of runners here. So if you said hi to every single one, which I usually do, but a lot of people just don't. But there's like there's little unwritten rules I've kind of learned. Like you stay to the right. You fucking run against traffic on certain streets and with it on others. Blow your snot rockets onto grass, not onto the cement. All kinds of things, but I don't know. I enjoy it. One of the things I like about it is it's not anything to. It's got nothing to do with stand-up comedy or anything like that. That's one of the things I like about it. I just do it, and I can pretend I'm anyone doing anything. I just go I really go into a zen, like calm thing where I'm just like, I just love it until it's over. Did a couple good podcasts recently too. Oh shit. Okay. My phone's making a lot of noises right now. I did a podcast with Chase Abel and Randy called Ready Set Blow podcast. That's coming back. That's coming up in here. Like, by the way, like on this as an HP crossover in a couple weeks. Or maybe next week. I just want to save it. I always put those HP crossovers out right away, like with an episode, and I'm like, I should be saving these for those weeks I don't feel like doing an episode. Oh god, fucking drunk fucking drivers, man. Maybe my least favorite people on earth. You suck dicks. Suck dicks all day. They suck cocks all night. Oh, so anyway, top of the morning to you, top of the morning to you, top of the evening to you, top of the morning to you, top of the evening to you, top of the morning. Alright, I'm fucking home. This podcast is short. You know what? Maybe not the best episode of Hypothetically ever, but thank you for driving back from this gig in Worcester with me. April 14th, I'm at the Schubert Theater with a bunch of good fucking comics. A whole bunch. It would be great if you guys came out to the Schubert Theater in Boston, a Box Center, April 14th. Also coming up in May, I'm at Nick's Comedy Stop. It's never too early to buy your tickets for that shit. And check my schedule. I got a lot of shows coming up. Anyway, remember, if no one told you they love you today, I do. Peace out. Testing. Testing. Test. 1, 2. Oh, that was stupid. Test. Test. Hello. Good morning. 3, 2, 1. 3, 2, 1. 3, 2, 1. 3, 2, 1. Good morning. Good fucking morning. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5.